Welcome to the TryPod NBA Playoffs Preview Extravaganza. This is Winny here, joined by your man Tala, who is our resident NBA expert. So that's right, NBA, not NRL, which is kicking off in half an hour. I've done the NRL preview. So if you only follow the TryPod for rugby league tips, then you can scroll along. But I know that there's a contingent of us that love the hoops as well. We've just finished up the regular season. We're in the midst of the play-in. We've had some sensational results with our season preview tips, Tala, that we'll start off by reviewing. And then people want our thoughts ahead of the postseason where it really heats up. So how are you doing, mate? And kick us off with kind of your highlight of the season, of the regular season.
My highlight of the season, I've been tipping along, tips with T. You can find it on Instagram, Telegram, and that. We're flying 30% profit on turnover, 800 units up, just crushing it. Money-wise, it's been great. In terms of the show itself, the Celtics, man, we got to touch on the Celtics. Jacob was all over the Celtics, and I didn't really believe in them, but I do now. But yeah, the Celtics, amazing team. West, very tough conference, but I think it's really phenomenal season from the Celtics.
It has been historical, and we'll look at both conferences. We'll go look at the first round playoff series. We'll even look at the games tomorrow. But do you recall kind of any of the main tips you shared in October for the season? Did you have any that got up or any others that missed? I know you loved Wembanyama. You told me that was your favorite bet of the year. Did up odds, to win Rookie of the Year, which he will by a significant margin. He's special.
Yeah, amazing player. That's the other. That's probably the key takeaway from the season, man. I've loved watching Wemby play. That Rookie of the Year bet. Chet did lift. Chet Holmgren of the Oklahoma City Thunder. He played a really important role for that team. He was good, but he wasn't on that next level, that just crazy out of this planet level that Wemby found. So I'm pretty happy with that. Had a decent go at it. And $2, you say, oh, it's $2, whatever. But $2 is $2, man. If you bid enough, you're going to make enough. So yeah.
The only reason I didn't follow you with that was the criteria that having to play 65 games. I was worried, would they be cautious with it? But and he competed. He was fighting even at the end, that famous victory that cost the Nuggets the 1 seed. Wemby was about the only starter on the Spurs that wasn't sitting, and it meant a lot to him to get that win. And that was one of the craziest games of the season too.
Yeah, very, very, very impressive player. I had a high thought about him before the season, and now it's even higher now. I'll give this tip out now. Wemby will be the MVP within 4 years. Tips with T.
Well, I don't think that's bold. I don't think that's too bold. I'm really going to say next year. He could, the Spurs are not going to take part in the playoffs, so that'll be the last we get to talk about them. But I think they need to put a roster around him that can compete, because they don't need to wait for him to get much better. He already is one of the true superstars in the league, in my opinion, or in everyone's opinion. I think it's pretty clear to see. Let me put up my summary of tips. For some reason, when I summarized the tips, I did forget to add my coach of the year, which was Jamal Mosley of the Magic, which I'm mentioning it, not that it's going to win, but just so you know, I shared 9 tips in the season preview. Mosley was a pretty good one, 29-1. I think he's going to poll in the top 3 to 5 and was really in a mix to take it out because the Magic had a sensational year. But I still cashed in with the Magic because I had him as $11 to win the Southeast to dethrone the Heat there. And that's, the Heat didn't really care about the regular season as much. Neither did the Nuggets about the Northwest Division. So we got OKC. You mentioned Chet, right? So that's pretty good, especially to only pick 2 divisions and to hit them both at 11 and 750. The Cavs didn't win the in-season tournament. The less said about my Scoot Henderson pick, the better for Rookie of the Year. I went Tatum, who had a great year, but his team was so complete, and he didn't stand out enough to be the MVP. I might throw to you for your opinion on who you would give MVP to, but we've got a couple still pending. Suns is not a great price at $4.20 to win the West, but still in the mix. They're probably double those odds now. But Boston's half the odds that I gave out a few months ago. I gave them at $5.50 before the year. I thought that was a good price to win the title. They're kind of $2.50 right now. We're going to discuss whether that's a good bet or not. But Tala, who would be your MVP? And, since we're looking at my tips, my other crowning jewel might be the $16 season multi. Thunder to make the playoffs, Magic to make the playoffs, and we need Bulls and Pelicans to both miss the playoffs. They are both playing single elimination games tomorrow. not against each other in the East and in the West. So we need the Pelicans and Bulls to both lose. They're both like 50-50 games. So we've got a 1 in 4 chance of winning my $16 multi. So, Tala, who was your MVP? And what do you think? Like, take us into the play-in games tomorrow. Can my 16-1 get up?
Your 16-1 can get up. So you need the Bulls to miss, or is it the Heat to miss the playoffs? You need the Bulls to miss the playoffs, right?
Yeah, so I need the Heat to win, and I need the Kings to beat the Pels.
I think you might be up against it, man. Jimmy Butler, he's injured. But the Heat, they have the coaching edge. Yeah, it is a true 50-50, but, I wish you the best. And other than that, you've taken a great bet, right? You had $16 odds, and now you're into 4-1, right?
That's what we want to do. Like, shared a tip or got an opinion on any of those games tomorrow yet? Or you
just play a prop, really. Just play a prop. Okay. But
which is more I'd probably
lean towards the Pelicans in a home game. I'd lean towards. And the Bulls, I think they suck, but the Heat, Jimmy Butler's out. So it's like, a great equal. I don't know if he's been officially ruled out yet, but I'm assuming that he's been ruled out.
Jimmy Butler?
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, I think he's done his MCL. He's out for a couple of weeks.
He's probably
which has implications for the first round. So that's very unlucky that Butler is out and we need the Bulls to get beaten. But Zion Williamson's out with a hamstring and we need the Pels to get beaten. So it goes both ways. So they're both 50-50. Heat's still got the depth, but I'm kind of with you. I reckon the Pelicans might win at home over the Kings. Kings have got their own injury issues. But Zion being out's massive for us. You didn't tell me who your MVP was.
Oh, sorry, man. Nikola Jokic. He's the best.
Okay.
Nikola Jokic, but I've got money on Luka. I've got money on Luka.
This is an OG Nuggets jersey. It doesn't say Jokic on the back, but it is a Nuggets 15 jersey.
Hello.
Yes. Look. Do you think Luka has any chance?
Well, I wanted to because I got a lot of money on it. Yeah. I got money riding. Sure. You know what I mean? I'll be in the queue if he wins it, but I don't think he will.
They came in with a wet sail, and
that's right.
We will talk about Dallas in their series, a fascinating one against the Clippers, where they actually are the favourites despite being on the road. But Joker probably, I think, on the back of dominating the playoffs last year and winning a ring and getting that extra legitimacy, that the voters are everyone is in awe of his game and the way that he elevates everyone around him. And I know the Nuggets, didn't top their conference. So others will make a case for SGA, best player, best team in the West. Of course, the best team in the whole comp was the Celtics, but they're probably too stacked to have a standout player. Even though Tatum's clearly their best player, he's not head and shoulders above his teammates. So I think there's a case for Luka and SGA, but my sense is as well that Joker's going to get his third MVP, which we didn't tip, but you've got to marvel at his game. Okay, so to me it doesn't really matter who wins tomorrow, right? The Pelicans win, but no Zion, they will go out in the first round to OKC. I will also say the same for Miami with no Butler, or the Bulls are going to get they're going to get rolled by the Celtics. So we can pretty much pencil the 1 seeds are going to advance regardless of tomorrow. So then let's talk about the playoff series in the West, and let's start with, or let's just give you a word on Oklahoma City, because we can't talk about their series. We don't know if it's going to be against Pelicans or Kings. But what do you make of OKC? How real do you think they are this year?
They're the real deal. But I think, good teams win. That's what they say. Good teams win. The statistics are there to back them. The thing that I don't like about them here, well, what odds are they to win it all? Let's have a look.
I'll bring up the West. This is just the West.
So the reason they're $7.25,
$7.50. Yep.
$7.50 is because they don't have playoff experience, right? So in the games that really matter, the level rises. There's none of these teams. They're not going to see these teams like the Spurs and the Detroit Pistons and the Wizards. Those teams aren't going to face them anymore. So instead of beating down on those teams, they're going to go and have to beat who they're playing. 1 versus 8, they probably get that. But then 1 versus whoever's next, that's like a murderer's row.
It'll be Dallas or Clippers.
Yeah, okay. So Kawhi and the Clippers, PG, that's not a team. I think that team will probably beat the Thunder or the Mavericks. I'd back the Mavericks to beat them as well, because I've seen Luka in the playoffs go to a new level, whereas all these Thunder guys are unproven. if you think back, like say 10 years or so back to when the Thunder, similar kind of deal, really good young players coming through, Westbrook, KD, Harden, Ibaka. Back then, they took a few goes before they made it all the way to the finals. And I think that's what we could see here with the Thunder now. Like, really good team, great regular season, unproven in the playoffs. And that's like, there's a factor, I've heard about it it's called the cojones factor. It's about like your balls, like, and you can get that from doing it. And these guys, they're not tested. I mean, Shea's been in the playoffs before. Chet's a rookie. Dort's a little bit of playoff experience, but for the most part, they're new to it. As a unit, they're new to it. So I don't think this year will be their year, even though they're the 1 seed. I wouldn't back them at $7.50 odds. No. How about you?
You know, I'm looking at that. Like, I think that's a decent price. I will talk about why in terms of their path, but this is a team that came 14th in the West 2 years ago. That's what got them Chet. Then he sat out what would have been his rookie year. So then this was his first official year playing. Shea has emerged into a legit superstar. We talked about, you know, he's got a case for MVP, and they got him thanks to the Paul George trade. Jalen Williams is the player that is most underrated of all, that could be the key to their success. And I think he's the guy that Aussies don't know. Aussies know Josh Giddey's on this team too, and he's a good player. But Jalen Williams, because OKC doesn't get that many nationally televised games, and now people will tune in more in the playoffs. I completely agree the question marks experience, and I would put size there too. So they don't have as much front court size as some other, you know, teams. That could be a matchup issue. I'm with you. I would take a healthy Clippers to actually beat OKC. But I might take OKC if they got Dallas. And why, the reason I say healthy Clippers is because of that doubt around Kawhi, which we will get to. But let's move to the 2-7. And I'll try and bring up the series odds. You can quote them if you know as well. But that is going to be Nuggets-Lakers. So it's a Western Conference Finals rematch.
This one's pretty easy, man.
Don't worry, I'll find the odds. You just share your thoughts on Nuggets-Lakers.
Yeah, well, first off, Nuggets, very good team. Second, they have a great home court advantage, which can't be underestimated or overestimated. And they'll have the best player in that series, Nikola Jokic. So what we're looking at with the Lakers is that they've got a healthy LeBron James and a healthy Anthony Davis, right? So, well, healthy as he can be. I like the Nuggets. But at $1.25, probably about right to me. You know, I couldn't really get around the Lakers.
You're not writing off LA.
I'm not writing them off, but I wouldn't be like in a hurry to put money on them at $4. No.
And let me bring up the West odds as well. That's title odds. Denver's $4. To win the West, Denver are the favorites at $2.40 to win the West. So they're pretty, like, in a very even field. They are the standouts. And they're probably the one team in the whole West, even though I'm wearing a Nuggets jersey and I'm a Nuggets diehard, that I wouldn't back. I'm selling Denver. I think they've just become everyone's default pick because the West is so wide open. You just back the team that has the chops. So I see it like 3 tough series. Like, they should get past LA, but they did sweep LA last year, but all those games were close. Particularly 3 of them were very close, and LA is kind of ready to go up again in the playoffs. So I just think LA will make them work hard, and then Denver would have to beat, I think it's Minnesota or Phoenix. And then, of course, the other side of the draw, someone really good is coming out. And I see them all as tough series. So I just think at that price, it's not value because everybody knows how good Denver are. But I don't love LA either. LA is probably overrated too. And as great as LeBron is, and insane as it is, that he's 21 seasons in, and you see, I don't know, guys like Blake Griffin retire or whatever, and you realize Blake Griffin didn't even join the league till like 6 years after LeBron. You know, there's so many great players that came and gone way after and way before, and LeBron's still at not the top of his game, but still like at an all-star level. But I don't know if LeBron's quite like take over a series level. He needs help around him. Some of the supporting cast at LA can be hot and cold. So if they get hot, they could be a chance. I'm talking the likes of your Russells, your Reeves, Hachimura. They get hot, they could make it interesting, but probably get dispatched by Denver. Let's move to the 3-6 then. So T-Wolves Suns. This is a really tough one. And as I bring up the odds, you're going to find, I think Phoenix is just a slight favorite.
Yeah, man. So the Timberwolves have got home court, right? But I'm saying I'm saying Suns. Suns are a bet there. Just in terms of if we look at it, the Timberwolves offense isn't very good or hasn't been very good, but the Suns have real proven playoff performers in Kevin Durant, Devin Booker, Bradley Beal not so much, but they've got Booker and Durant, and in particular the style of it, right? Kevin Durant and Booker can really operate in the mid range. I don't have the stats right on hand, but they're very efficient scorers there. So the Timberwolves, they tend to take away shots at the rim, like with Gobert, and they play Towns, right? They play two guys like that, right? So you're taking away something that Phoenix isn't going to do anyway. Then, like, when was the last time you saw KD take it to the rim? He's just going to take it to the mid range and shoot it. So the strength of their defense is based around protecting the rim. That's what the statistics say, and that's what, if you watch the game, that's what you'll start to see. Oh, it's quite hard to score at the rim against that team. But it doesn't matter because the Suns don't really try and take those types of shots anyway. So it's really well set for the Suns. And with Karl Towns being somewhat injured, like that takes away a dimension of the Timberwolves offense that's really good. So I think the Timberwolves are going to be up against it, despite having the higher seed.
Yeah, you do make a great point there. And maybe there's something to that as well. The Suns owned Minnesota in the regular season. They both were trying to win on the final day of the season, and the Suns dominated Minnesota. And Towns has been back for like 2 or 3 games, but he's still working his way back. I think he's the key, though, because I do Minnesota's going to need to go up a gear in terms of offense, and Towns could be the key to that. I mean, I love Naz Reid. Could he win sixth man of the year? I love that quick release three. And if I had to give you a highlight of the year, like for me, it was actually Anthony Edwards highlights. Like I thought I'd gone in a time machine. I know this is sound crazy, but I thought I was watching young Michael Jordan from an athletic standpoint. The way that Ant was dominating these games and flying around, well, I was in awe. He was absolutely ridiculous, and he can put a lot of pressure on teams in these playoffs. The problem is that Phoenix can score with anyone with the 3 players that you named. I actually really love both of these sides. I do think the Timberwolves are deeper, but that doesn't count for as much in the playoffs. And I also think the Timberwolves went a bit harder in the regular season. Like they wanted the 1 seed, whereas Phoenix was kind of probably more cruising to an extent. Like didn't want to end up in the play-in, but didn't care as much about their seed. I will still pick the Timberwolves though, just because of their defense. But I think you raise a great question about the matchup. So it probably does come down to Karl Towns. Would you pick Denver over either of these, Minnesota or Phoenix, whoever gets through?
Yeah, I'd probably lean towards Denver again. But it's like what you mentioned before. It's become the default pick because there's this thing that you get. It's called recency bias. So recently we saw the Nuggets run through the playoffs. So that's what is in your mind. You've seen it happen. You've seen that group of players minus Bruce Brown. He's gone, but that group of players progress and defeat different sorts of teams and different sorts of settings. It just wipe the floor with them pretty much. So,
but that's the thing. Like Denver didn't wipe the floor with everyone. It was 2-2 against Phoenix, and they didn't have Bradley Beal. I believe at the time they did have Chris Paul, but he was like injured.
CP3 went out injured.
So like actually, that was a close series. Probably as close as anybody got to Denver was Phoenix, and Phoenix are better this year. And as you said, Denver doesn't have Bruce Brown. You can't really say Denver's better unless you just want to say because of the experience they're as good. So I wouldn't write Phoenix off, but I wouldn't write Minnesota off against Denver either. I think that those teams are all a lot closer together. Is my point. One more series to come. We should probably pick up our pace because I know we got to catch the Wars game next, mate. But Mavs Clips 4-5. So tell us why you like Dallas a little bit more.
I like the Mavericks because Kawhi injury cloud. He didn't finish out the season, and they've got Luka Doncic. He's the best player in that series, in my eyes. The question around the Mavericks for me is what can the other guys do? What can the supporting guys do? Can PJ Washington have a game, or Derek Jones Jr. or Jalen Green or whoever they try to play? I think Kyrie and Luka, that combination there is going to be very hard to stop. And then defensively, I don't think they'll be very good. But, if they can score 130 a game, good luck. Good luck.
Yeah, I backed the Clippers when everyone wrote them off when they traded for Harden and lost like 5 of 6. I backed them when they were $17 just to win the West. They came into about $4, but now Kawhi's injured is like the most predictable injury ever. But we don't know, but he hasn't like trained or he's not cleared for 5-on-5 yet. So I'm really worried. So I wouldn't touch the Clippers at this point. I'd wait till I saw him play and saw a healthy Kawhi because without him, they're a frisky team that will still be hard to beat, but they're not like that elite level championship caliber team. And I do worry about the Mavs because they're as hot as anybody. And we know what Luka can do. And then he's relishing playing with Kawhi. But it's all the role players. He loves what Derek Jones, Gafford, Lively, and Exum as well, what they're all bringing to the table. So they've got more depth than they ever have before. And the winner of Clippers Mavericks can beat. They'll be playing OKC. And I think they both definitely have a chance to beat OKC and even can beat Denver if they were to meet in a conference finals. Like the winner of Clippers, if Clippers win this series, I assume Kawhi's healthy. And if Mavs win this series, like either of these could make the finals. And in fact, I put the odds up before. Mavericks 650. They're the second favorite to come out of the West. But let's move across to the East. We'll save Boston till last because they're probably going to sweep Butlerless Miami. Or Miami might, jag a game. We've seen strange things happen, like Miami get up 3-0 in the series last year. But realistically, Boston's not going to slip on that banana peel again. So they'll be into the second round. Let's start with another fascinating series, 2-7, Knicks 76ers. I'll find the odds. You tell us what you're looking forward to about this one.
Well, not good offense. That's it. I think, you might see some games that are in the 90s and 80s just because of the styles of these teams, right? So, if you want to see some three-pointers and dunks, probably look away. But, I don't know, man. It's just a lot of question marks. I'm going to lean towards the Knicks because they've got home court, but with the big caveat that the 76ers have the best player in the series, like head and shoulders, and Embiid is like well above whatever the next best player is. So
I would push back. I would push back on that. I know Embiid is the MVP, the reigning MVP, but Brunson played that well this year that I don't think, in stature, yes, but I don't think in performance you can actually say Embiid is head and shoulders above Brunson. Like Brunson is a guy they can rely on to score 35 or 40 points in a game, which is what Embiid can do as well. But it is a pick'em series, so you don't often get 2 versus 7 being pick'em, but this 76ers side is not your typical 7 seed because Embiid was out most of the year. However, New York, what they've done has been pretty incredible, and they don't have Randall, who's one of their best players. He's out for the year. Anunoby's missed a lot. So with your opinion that I'm not saying Embiid's not the best player in the series, just that Brunson keeps it close. Is that the deciding factor for you? Do you think the Sixers win this one on the road?
Nah, I'm going Knicks because they're healthy. And like you said, Brunson's a good player, but I'm talking about the very peak performance of Brunson is like a top 20 player in the NBA. Being honest, like he's been great, but he's nowhere near Embiid. Like the caliber of player they are at their best. It's not close. Like Brunson's
if it's like
as good as he can be, and it's like top 20. It's maybe the fifth best point guard in the
because Brunson's probably going to end up top 5 MVP voting. But I get what you're saying. If we were picking like one player to win me a series and we could pick anyone in the league, there's probably 15 guys that go ahead of Brunson, but there might not be 5 guys that go ahead of Embiid.
And in terms of the season this year, Brunson's been amazing. Like he has been, but it's a new season now. It's a 7-game season. And I'm still going with the Knicks. I like the Knicks.
And what's funny about that is you're arguing for Embiid and you're going to take the Knicks. I'm arguing for Brunson, but I'm going to take the 76ers in that series. I think that they will get, Maxey had a breakout year as well. I don't know about Anunoby if he's going to be fully fit, but I can't wait to watch that. The Garden is going to be rocking. Now, in the series, I know you got an opinion on 3-6 Bucks, Pacers. Giannis is out at least the first half of the series, at least, so they say. So let me bring up what the odds are showing at the moment and how I want to hear how you'd play this.
Yeah, so like it was $3. Like I saw Giannis get injured and then I saw the matchup set and then I was like, oh, it's $3. So I'll have a little go. But then I didn't get time to tip it. Now it's into a pick'em. So at these odds, with Giannis, he's likely to be out. Even if he comes back, how much do you think he's got to give coming off a calf injury? I don't
It's
think
risky.
it's risky, right? So I'm going to lean towards the Pacers to do a number on the Bucks. Good thing about the Pacers is that their offense is really good. They've got some different half-court options now that they've got Pascal Siakam as well, so they can do that transition thing that they've been doing. But also, when it comes down to it, they have a guy that can sort of make his own offense and make hard shots. Yeah, I'm going with the.
And this is a funny one because Indiana are $26 to win the East. The Bucks are $8. But they're 50-50 of who progresses because Giannis is out for a week or unknown.
That's
and Indiana are favorites in game 1 in Milwaukee. Indiana will be even bigger favorites at home in games 3 and 4. So the series could be over by game 5 if Giannis isn't back. So that when you bet that series, you're betting on Giannis's injury and you're basically betting on when you think he's going to be back. The problem for me is I would probably smash Indy in this, but I'm just not certain that they're the same team that was so awesome to watch in the first half of the year. I don't think Halliburton has been quite the same since he hurt his hammy. I feel like he's nursed it the rest of the year because he just wanted to make sure he hit the games threshold to be eligible for All-NBA because there's a $30 million or $40 million contract difference for him, over the next 5 or 6 years. I don't love the Bucks. I don't trust them, but I know Giannis is that type of player that can just lift them over anybody. But now Giannis is out, so I wouldn't touch the Bucks, and I don't know if I'd play Indy either. So I'm kind of tentative. I haven't really played this series, but I don't like either of these teams for a future either. Let's keep moving. Mate, I want to hear what you like about another interesting series. 4-5, Cavs hosting Magic.
I'll lean towards the Cavs. Again, another series where points might be at a premium. So we might see more games that are in the 90s and in the low hundreds, like that. Pretty good defensive teams, both sides. I guess this one to me comes down to what has Donovan Mitchell got in the tank, right? He wasn't good to finish off the end of the regular season. Well, I think he had a couple of good games mixed in. He was pretty up and down, and the Magic are pretty tough defensively, which would keep them sort of in games. What would the Cavs were slight favorites, right?
Cavs 150 with home court. 150 plays 260.
I couldn't get around them at that price. I'd probably lean towards the Magic at 260, but I think the Cavs are more likely. But at 260, would I give the Magic a 40% chance to win that series? Yeah, sure. Why not?
Given the Magic are in better form. Yes, and I loved Magic coming into this year, so they were another highlight for me, watching how well they played. Banchero, second year, Wagner, Suggs, even defensively, this team can turn the screws with Suggs at guard, but Isaac as well. However, I would pick the Cavs. I just think maybe a little bit more experienced. The likes of Mitchell can negate that great defense of the Magic. Garland as well, I'm a big fan. Mobley is a defensive game changer. It's a funny one because the Cavs really fell away. They would have won the division. They would have probably ended up with a 2 seed, but they got key injuries through January and February, and they just fell away a bit. So I suppose they've got to recapture their best form. But I tend to think that if they can, they'd be superior. And it's a tough one because there's 2 teams I really like, but they're playing each other. So I can't really do much with it. The winner will play the Celtics. And I think either would give the Celtics a challenge. Particularly the Cavs at their best could maybe trouble the Celtics. But what does trouble mean? I mean, could the Cavs win 2 games? I struggle to see more than that. So that's the only other East team we haven't talked about. But as I said, they're going to steamroll round 1. You have the first word, Boston and Celtics. How far are they going to go?
All roads lead to the Celtics. Their head and shoulders, their performance in the regular season has been head and shoulders above any of the other teams in the NBA. In terms of if you look at their net rating, if you look at their defensive rating and their offensive rating, both top 5. They've been smashing the useless teams. They've been wrecking the good teams as well. So what we have there is just a team that's really good on both sides of the ball. They got depth. They got good perimeter defense. They got interior defense. They got shot making. I can't really pick holes in their game too much other than their playoff track record, which is rubbish. And their best player, Jason Tatum, you touched on it with the MVP. he's likely not to be the best player in, at least a few of these series. Like if he comes up against Jokic, Jokic is the guy. If he comes up against, those teams from the West, you know what I mean? He's not the best player in that series, and that's something that I do like to look for sometimes. It's not a statistical factor. It's just like a gut factor. Like if the ball's in this guy's hands, do I trust him to go and make a shot? And Tatum, no. But other than that, like it might never get to a point where the game's within 5 under 5 because they're just so good on both sides of the ball. They built it up and built it up and built it up, and they don't need him to be the man. They just need to be good as a unit. Yeah. What do you reckon?
But I still think he can be the man. Like you said, do I trust him? Like I still trust him. Like, yeah, if he's in a series and in the East, who are we talking about? Like, are we talking about Philly, like Milwaukee with a healthy Giannis? Like there's not even any certainty that the Celtics will have to play either of those teams. Those teams are both only 50-50 out the first round. So Tatum's better than pretty much everyone else in the East. And then, yes, okay, in the finals, you want to forecast that far ahead and you face a Kawhi, a Luka, Joker. I get you, but the strength of this Celtics team is they're so deep and they've got a different dimension than last year with Porzingis. That height near the rim, but also how that changes their offense. And not to mention, gaining Drew Holiday. So you lose nothing in losing Marcus Smart. And to me, absolutely think the Celtics, the only thing that beats them is injuries. So I know people want tips. You already followed my tip at 550, and maybe you're sweet to sit on it, but I would still today at $2.75 on Better. It's as low as kind of 250, 240. I was waiting to see who they got in the first round because I was like, if Philly drops to 8, you don't really want Philly in the first round. Or if Miami drops to 8, like Miami will give them hell. But the way it's worked out where it won't be Philly, and now Butler's out, it's a cakewalk round 1. Yeah, it's a challenge round 2, but that's fine. You get a tune-up. Like the Celtics are coming out of the East and they'll be favored against anybody in the West and they will have home court and they will win the title this year if they don't get any major injuries. Like I'm calling it now. So 275, I'm going to tip that. I'm going to throw back to you to close the show and share any tips that you've got like right now. Like, so I'm putting you on the spot. If there's any like futures or anything, otherwise have a look for a second. I've got one other. The other like long shot that I have tipped that like you can copy from me because I did it on Dabble. I actually took the T-Wolves at $11 to win the West. And it's not me saying the Timberwolves will win the West, but it was more, I heard Kawhi might be injured and I previously liked the Clippers. I'm like, oh, well, if they're in their trouble, if they're in trouble, it could open things up. I don't love Denver, so I think everyone other than Denver is a little bit better value because Denver, I think their odds are too short. And just looking around the board, I'm like, I don't really see why anyone has a case to be much better than Minnesota because that team finished one less win than OKC and didn't have their second best player for 2 months. And he's back now. So OKC at 750, I think is also solid if you prefer that route and they've got home court. But yeah, let's say for a value, let's say Minnesota at 11s just to win the West. And just for a team that you're going to feel in a strong position anytime you switch on the TV and watch them play. Boston 275. I think just get them before they get much shorter. Tala, finish us off. You got anything to share?
Yeah, sweet. I've got a couple of tips. Number one is
Awesome.
Boston to win the Eastern Conference. Like for all the reasons discussed, a very good team. I'd be very surprised if they don't. So like you're not going to find.
But from a betting perspective, sorry to interrupt you, but they're around 150 to win the East. Perspective. But if they're 150 to win the East, isn't 275 for the title better? Because they would be favourites against anybody in the finals.
I'm laying all the teams in the East. They suck. Like not suck, but for various reasons, Boston are much, much better than them. Whereas the teams that come out of the West will be a much stiffer test, in my eyes, than anything they're going to face in the East. You might find 5 teams in the West.
If Boston plays Denver and Boston's $1.80, would you play Boston? You'd think about it.
I'd lean towards them, but I wouldn't put money on it necessarily.
But that's the toughest matchup. Anybody else, Boston will be shorter.
I'm very confident that they win the East, like a high level of confidence because I can pick all those teams to pieces. Whereas in the West, you can make a case that those teams can beat the Celtics. In the East, you're gonna you can barely think of a team to beat them twice.
No,
let
I
alone
agree.
beating them
I
4
agree.
times out of
But
7.
that's the beauty of playing Boston to win the title as well, because they're only going to have to beat one West team. But you're saying take them for the East, you don't have to beat any. But I guess my point is, I think my way is going to be better than rolling over your funds. But Tala's way, you don't have to roll over your funds. You can just play Boston to win the East, and then maybe you back the Western team in the finals because maybe you actually like the matchup. So we both agree in terms of Boston rolling through the East for sure.
Yeah, I wouldn't be. I'm not saying I'm going to be in a hurry to go and bet against them when they get to the finals, but I just want to see who they have and then see how it goes. But
And
the second bet
else?
I had, I like this is a bit longer. Jamal Murray to lead the Nuggets in assists. Sorry, to lead the series in assists against the Lakers, right? So this will come down to Styles, and it's paying $19 over on Bet365. If you shop those odds around, you might get a better price. But we've seen series where different tactics teams might use. So last season, the Lakers they put like Rui Hachimura on Jokic and left AD on the back line of defense for a lot of that series. But if we look at what happened in the Heat series, in the finals, the Nuggets went to a lot of Jokic and Jamal Murray pick and roll, and Jamal Murray actually led that series in assists, over 10 a game. So he's an okay player. Depending what the Nuggets want to go to will depend on how many assists that Jamal Murray gets. And at $19, I like that, right? Like, if he can average 10 in a series, which he can, he's shown the capability of doing it with the right circumstances, then, I love that.
Which series did he average 10 assists? Against LA last year?
Against the Heat.
Oh, no,
he had a low. He had a low. They had different tactics, right? Like it was.
Okay, so if LA changes their tactics up and obviously tries to force the ball out of Joker's hands and makes Murray beat him, which is less likely, but it's $19. So I love that idea that if there's a philosophy change, then it can just dramatically, and teams don't mind making Jokic a scorer either. So he could average 35 points and 8 assists, and Murray could average 9 assists. So I love the way that you've broken that down, mate.
Yeah, that's and then the Nuggets have shown, obviously a lot's running through Jokic, but they've been plenty happy to put the ball in Murray's hands and have lots of Jokic Murray pick and rolls. Like they're happy with that. If that's what they're given, they'll take that. Like that's a good source of offense for them. So yeah.
And Murray's a great player. People didn't realize that probably until they saw the Nuggets closely last year. And he's a big reason that they won the title because there's lots of great players in the league. Look at someone like Luka Doncic, but you need help to get all the way. And Murray is a legit second banana. So I like that. I do think the Nugs will handle the Lakers. I want to thank Toppy as well for allowing us to create this show because it was a popular demand. People wanted to hear it and who we're on. So I've given a couple of tips there. We've got some others that are still riding. My 16-1 will be decided tomorrow. Need 2 50-50 games. So up the Heat and up the Kings, and we get home a 16-1 on top of an 11 and a 750. It's not quite Tala picking a $250 division winner, but hey, I did my best. And some people actually did multi my division tips for over 80 return. My other best bet has already kicked off. I need to get in front of my TV and go watch Warriors Dragons. So we timed it to try and squeeze this in before the footy. The footy's on now. Thank you for those who tuned in. And thank you to you, especially Tala, taking the time out to chat hoops with me. Really appreciate it.
Thanks, Jacob. Thanks, everyone. Thanks, TryPod. Catch you later.